Are we going?
Yeah, we're recording. Oh, I like that cut. Alright, boys, we need to start talking.
Alright, go ahead. Start it off.
Alright. What is up, guys? Welcome to the inaugural episode of Short Waddles. It's a turkey exclusive podcast featuring myself, Zach Gibbs,
Brady White.
Travis Goddard.
It's presented by 25 High and Longleaf Game Calls. And I figured since this is the first episode, what we should do is just kind of a mix of like introductions and a vest tour. And then we're going to, talk about some turkey stuff afterwards.
Right on.
So, who wants to start the vest tour?
Jumping right into it, huh?
Yeah, well, why not?
Heck, I'll go.
Well, I mean, you got, so, kind of like, say who you are, how long you been turkey hunting, just say a couple things. Oh, by the way, guys, if you hear boats running behind us, there's a river right there. We've been bass fishing half the day, and we just decided, why not? We all had our turkey vests. We were like, why not go ahead and record this? We've been talking about it for a while, so finally time to do it. So.
Right on. Well, I'm Brady White. I'm sure you've seen me in a couple of videos. I've been turkey hunting since I was 11. Killed my first bird with my grandpa when I was 11. Been absolutely addicted to it since then. Last couple of years I've been hunting with these fools. An addiction of mine. I've killed birds in only 2 states. I plan to change that soon. But
So this boat get black.
yeah, I was about to say it's gonna get black.
Oh, is that a jet ski? Oh.
Some fools.
Crazy jokers.
They ought to know that this is not the jet ski river.
No.
That's about 30, 45 minutes
this is
that
a
way.
stump river.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very set in my ways. I know a lot of people, probably these two disagree with a lot of the ways I've turkey hunted, but it's been successful for me. I try to be more conservative, but when they hunt with me, I'm as aggressive as can be. So it's a mix of things. But I'll run you through my vest, what I carry with me. It's not even turkey season, so I don't know if I have everything in here, but
Oh yeah, I had to shove a bunch of stuff in one day.
let's see what I have. So things that never leave my vest. So I run the Alps vest with the seat attached to it. So in this pouch right here, I got my Lynch box call. What I love about these Alps vests is that they have a separator for your box call lid and your box call body, so it doesn't shake around and make a bunch of noise. This is the Lynch's Longbeard. It's not chalked right now, so it ain't gonna make no noise that sounds anything like a turkey. But grandfather gave me this. This was his call, so very important to me. It's killed a lot of birds in its life, way more than I've killed in my life with my grandpa. But I carry that with me. Just a great locator call. He did things on that call. He purred, clucked, everything on that call unlike anybody's ever seen. So I know what it can do. I'm just not to the point yet. I use it as a locator call for the most part. I keep that in that pouch. I'll just go side by side. On this side here, I've got a Longleaf Custom Game Calls slate call, and this is a very sweet sounding call. I've got it right here. I'm right-handed, so I can have my gun propped up. I can just reach right in there in this bag, because when I set up, I open all my pouches. Reach right here, quick access to it. And I also, one of my main points that I want to say, and I'm not sure if y'all keep these in here, pair of loppers. Whatever you want to call these, I call them loppers. Making blinds, cutting shooting lanes for wherever you're sitting, avoid gun barrel movement, whatever you got to do when the turkey's up in close. My eyes, probably the most important tool you keep in your vest. I'll add more to that with something else that's in here. So this is my right side. Not much on my right side. Like I said, I'm right-handed. I want to be able to keep my most trusty tools on this side. Easy access. Above that, I have this vest here. It's where I keep my mouth calls. Right. I like to keep my mouth calls in Ziploc bags. I know it seems counterintuitive, but the plastic boxes will crack, they'll break, make a bunch of noise. These here, I can put one in and be good with it. tend to stick with one call unless the bird's acting funny, so I don't really need to mess with them that much. Up top, they're not making a bunch of noise. Over here, I've got my striker pouch. I've got one from Longleaf Custom Game Calls. I've got one from Woodhaven and one from HS Strut. Every slate call I have, every pot call I should say, because they're not all slate, I have 30 strikers. Try every one of them. I typically carry 3, one for each call, but also one that runs well on all of them if I need to switch things up. Over here I have my Woodhavens. Besides Longleaf Custom Game Calls, Woodhavens are my go-to. I have the Cherry Crystal Classic, which is by far my favorite Woodhaven call. Runs sweet, gets loud, doesn't get affected like slate does. You get quiet on it, you can do your purrs, you can do everything you need with that call right there. Next is the Woodhaven slate call. I'm not even sure what they call this one, but as you can tell by the wear on it, I've had this since I was 12. It has been responsible for a lot of birds dying. I even have notches. I haven't even notched the longleaf call yet. So, and one thing I do with my slate calls is I'll run them everywhere. I'll sand them in patterns, and I'll find the sweet spot, and I'll put a notch. So if it's early, if I got a bird somewhere and I can't afford to be looking, I've got a notch. I can run my finger around the top. I say, okay, my finger's here, my sweet spot's here. Just easy access.
That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
It's a very minimal idea, but when a gobbler's within 100 yards of you, especially if where we hunt is pretty open on burns, clear cuts, anything like that, you want as little movement as possible. You want to trust your gear. You want to know everything's going to work when you want it to work. Not looking, I can find my sweet spot and run my call. Don't even have to look at it. From there, I have something I'm terrible at, but I plan to get better at. This is a Longleaf Custom Game called Trumpet. I don't even want to explain how bad I am at these, but when you can't work a bird, high pressured birds, and you want something he's never heard before, trumpets are the way to go. These things kill birds. I haven't had enough practice on them yet, so I'm terrible at them. So I will not demonstrate me on a trumpet, but I'm going to keep this in my vest this year and get it one of them hard-headed birds. I'm going to put this thing to him. So we'll go to the inside now. I typically carry a water pouch on my back and run it here. I ain't got that there. Adds more weight, but if you're like I hunt and you walk miles, you'll park one place and walk for 5 miles. You want some water. This side I typically carry my face mask and gloves, easy access. I'm not gonna wear my face mask and gloves all day, but when I get somewhere I can sit down and just put them on. They stay right there. Going back to my lopper side, on this side I carry a limb saw. This is for where when you're in really thick stuff or you're gonna sit down and call for a while. Say you're in a strut zone, you got some birds you know that frequent this place. The birds aren't gobbling that well. Real thick around these open areas where the birds are gonna flock to. You can cut some shooting wains much better than the loppers will. Cut your bigger stuff. Like I said, if I was to recommend anybody to carry in their vest at all times, is a pair of loppers and a limb saw. They will change the way you turkey hunt and make things a lot easier for you, and you will bust a lot less birds from gun barrel movement, limb twitch, all that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I carry. I know that was several things, but I like to think I'm a minimalist, but yeah, that's about all I carry in my vest.
You got anything in the back?
No, if I carry a decoy or something, it'll be in the back, but it depends where I hunt if I carry a decoy or not. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. So I mean, whoever wants to take over from here, y'all can have at it, but that's it.
I think I can go ahead. So
hang on, before I interrupt, I don't have any on me because the season hasn't started yet. Another thing I carry in my on this side right here in another Ziploc bag is sandpaper to rough up my surfaces and my pot calls. That's it. Now you can go ahead.
All right. So I'm gonna go. So I've got my thermocell running here because it's there's a lot of mosquitoes around. We're also slam covered in DEET right now, but I figured a little extra help can't hurt nothing. But I got my thermocell here, but I don't carry a box call too often. I know they're good, I'm just not very good at them, and I prefer just a slate. It's just my personal preference, like a glass call if I'm locating, or a trumpet. But in my box call pouch I usually keep my thermocell, and then above that in this pouch I have mouth calls. Oh, I found my mouth calls I've been missing. I got mouth calls. There's like this little well, I'll go through it. Got a locator, crow call, and an owl hoot tube. I can't. These two boys can owl hoot with their natural voice as good as an actual owl can, but I am nowhere near as good, so I just carry a hoot tube. And then I've got extra thermocell stuff. There's a little like clear pouch. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little clear pouch in the top of this vest. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention I'm running the same vest, the Alps with the kickstand. But keep extra thermocell stuff in this pouch. It's easy to get reach. And then I have extra camera batteries. That's pretty much it for that pouch. I'll just leave that out.
I want to add one thing about these vests we have. They're awesome, versatile. You carry a lot of stuff. If you're a minimalist, may not be your vest. It's a little heavy. Sometimes, depending on what you're walking through, these metal tube legs, if you go through a burn or something where everything's dead and hard, they'll tink a little bit. It's one thing I don't like. I want to try to put some like rhino lining or something on. Make sure you try to cut that out.
You probably get some of that stealth tape stuff.
Yeah,
that stuff. I love that stuff. You could probably put that on there.
I'd say that's the only downfall of this vest is those metal legs will
and the
tink.
weight. But I mean,
oh yeah, the weight. But
yeah, but so on the top little pouch here, I just carry my mask and my gloves. That's pretty much all I carry on that side. I don't think I have anything on the inside, but I'll check. No, not on that side. On this side, I got my striker pocket, and I do have a trumpet in here that I made, Longleaf Customs, but or Longleaf Game Calls. But I'm probably gonna run it on a lanyard this year. I just shoved it in here so I'd have it, but I can demonstrate it because I'm not terrible at it. It's a great call that these turkeys usually don't hear. I enjoy it. I'm just fascinated by all sorts of different calls, and that's kind of what my kick is right now. And I make them so. But
kind of biased.
Yeah, there's a little mesh pouch in the front of the striker thing, and that's where I keep my my sandpaper. Got 2 extra strikers. I'll probably run 3. Huh?
We'll see some of that sandpaper.
But I'll probably end up running 3 strikers, and then, or maybe a striker. I may run it like this and have another trumpet. I don't know. But that's what I got in that one. And then I've got 2 slate calls over in the slate call pockets. This one's one of my favorites. Is a one that I made is a glass over copper. This call is a unique sound. It can really reach out there and touch them, but it can also get real quiet. This call is actually already sold, but I threw it in my vest just so I'd have something to show y'all. I am gonna run one of those calls this year, and then I just got another little glass call that I made as well. I appreciate the noise. And then in this top pouch on this side, I just carry a few extra shells, in a little shell holder. My zipper broke on this side though, so that kind of sucks. On the inside, I usually run another slate call on the inside, but I think I pulled it out. So, yeah. That's all for the front of my vest. And then in the back, I think I have an inflatable. Ooh, very important.
Yes.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
This
You're
is
a turkey
probably
hunter,
the
that's
only.
your best friend.
You need, if you can only carry 2 things turkey hunting, you need a mouth call and one of these.
Let me tell you something. I speak from experience. You don't want to be wadding up pine straw and wiping her.
Pine straw, son. Do you know how many pairs of socks I've cut up in the woods?
Oh yeah, t-shirts. So
It's not fun.
That morning
Yeah.
coffee hits, you look for something.
yeah. So I thought I don't know where my other fly down wing is, but this one, I made this one last year. It's got a piece of wood, and I just shoved some primary feathers in it. But good little fly down wing. I prefer a actual wing for some. I don't think it really makes much of a difference, but I prefer. I've heard people use their hats from a distance,
Not nearly as realistic.
and it
No.
does
in my
not
opinion.
sound like a turkey wing. But I feel like you could kill more birds with just this in high pressure areas than with any call on the market. Honestly.
That and scratching.
This and scratching, yeah. And honestly, this makes good scratching. I've scratched with a wing before when there wasn't enough to grab with my hands around me. But I usually carry an actual wing that I've cut off and dried as well. I'm not sure where it is, honestly. I guess I lost it somewhere. But I also have a little inflatable decoy that I never used back here. I can't remember what her name was, but I named her. Cade named her. But yeah, I have that just in case. I never use decoys. I just sometimes when I'm sitting in a food plot in the evenings and I just want to have something to do, I may or may not put out a decoy. But also have my hydration pack, a hydration bladder back there. That's pretty much all I carry, except I may be carrying a different slate calls. I might go through a rotation of a handful of different ones, just whatever I'm feeling that day. And then I'll probably have probably be running 2 trumpets, one that I made and then one by Andy Terrell. Those are my 2 favorite trumpets that I've got. So I think that's all of my stuff.
Alright, well, I'll move on. Well, I'm the only one that has a different vest than they do. I have the Nomad convertible. And the reason they call it convertible is you can unclip these straps and wear this as a fanny pack somewhat. Which, you know, has your most important stuff.
I do have loppers on my side real quick. They're hard to get to, but I have loppers in the water bottle pouch on the side and just cinched up real tight around. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's good. But that's one thing I don't have. I don't have the loppers, which
Better get you some.
I might should, but anyway. But one call that I'm 100% belief in is a Lynch box call. It ain't got any chalk on it, so it sounds horrible because I hadn't used it all year since last turkey season. But the Lynch foolproof turkey call, that's my #1 killer call right there. I carry, if I can get it clipped back, anyway, I only have one right now, but I carry usually 3 or 4, maybe 5 mouth calls. I make these mouth calls, and I think these guys.
I carry nothing but TG game calls.
And I appreciate that. Appreciate them for that. But I carry, you know, a few different cuts. My favorite cut's back wing. I usually carry 2 of those.
Hang on. Before you let us explain why we carry nothing but TG game calls. Run that thing. It is the easiest blow and best sounding call there is. There is nothing on the market that's going to beat it, and these are easy.
Yeah, I've tried.
That's just nuts, man.
I've tried.
I can gobble on one of these, but I can't on this cut. Like I said, this is the only one I've got right now, but that one cut, I can gobble on. I can give it a shot.
It's way better than I can do.
No kidding.
There's too much rasp in this call. It's the only reason why I can't do it.
But I've run probably 3 different cuts from definitely every major manufacturer of mouth calls, a few lesser known people, and a few other custom makers. And those calls are the only ones that I can kind of sort of halfway sound like a turkey on.
Yep.
I'm not very good with a mouth call.
Great.
Yeah, those are awesome.
I've ran them all. There's no doubt. For as easy as they are to blow, for every cut, they sound the best. Because I used to run a Preston Pittman Black Diamond and a Zinc Screaming Lady, which they quit making, which makes me sad. That was a great call. Those 2 had their quirks. I could make both of them sound great. One was hard to blow. One you had to blow real easy. You couldn't get very loud on. But these calls are so versatile. It's unbelievable.
That's the way I feel about them.
So if I find something that's versatile, that's what I carry, because there's less stuff I have to carry.
The more versatile I can be with something, the more I love it.
Absolutely. So anyway, keep going. Sorry.
I carry 2 pot calls. I carry a glass call all the time. A glass call is my favorite surface. I will always have that. This is a custom aluminum. I don't have one of Zach's pot calls yet, but I definitely will have one because his sound absolutely awesome. They sound better than either one of these.
Appreciate it.
But this one's anodized aluminum. But that's probably my least. I carry 2 of them, but that's probably my least used calls. I carry 2 different strikers. But in this pocket here, I carry gloves, face mask, usually 2 of each. 2 pairs of gloves, 2 face masks. Let's see. Here, I shoot both 20 gauge and 12 gauge. Just no reason really, just whatever I'd feel like picking up that morning. I load my gun up with 3, of course, and then I keep 2 of each in my vest. About it for that pocket.
Just in case that coyote walks by.
I wasted my own one.
It's garbage now, but I found this turkey feather in Mississippi on a very special hunt that me and Zach were on. That was a very special weekend, so I always keep it right there. I carry a crow call, which I absolutely never use. I don't think this thing has 1 single wad of spit in it. And I don't carry an owl hooter because I owl hoot my voice. It gets the job done. And this year, which last year I was carrying a wing bone around my neck that Zach had made for me out of a turkey I killed. And really liked that. And happened to lose it. So this year hopefully I can kill a turkey and he can make me one. But for now we're using the trumpet, and like he said, I mean it's a different sound, and I'm not real great on it, but I'll toot on it in a minute. Absolutely garbage compared to Zach.
You ain't that bad. You got a lot better. For sure. And
probably now Zach carries a wing, but something that probably nobody, no one, neither one of them I told a turkey fan, and I'll explain why in a minute. But first of all, the wing. That is, in my opinion, like Zach said, that's probably the most natural call in a pressured set of woods. Because I mean, in that turkey's mind, there's nothing else makes that sound. And I may not only fly down with it, I may be like, you know, turkey stretching her wings. I'll just go, just stretching her wings out, fluffing her wings, whatever, and scratch with it, whatever. Like I said, that's probably the most natural call that I have in my vest. And I'm able to fold it up with this Primos thing that comes with the strutter, but I carry a fan. I've killed 1 turkey with it, but it was in an emergency situation. Seen the bird, threw it up, whatever, you know. And I don't really have a back pocket like they do. The only thing I carry back there might be a turkey on a long haul out. But one thing I forgot, of course, thermocell. Always carry a thermocell. Down here in these southern woods, I mean, especially in creek bottoms and stuff, where our turkeys roost a lot of times, you set up in a creek bottom a lot of times. They're just outside of one. So you have to have a thermocell, in my opinion, or bug spray. But I don't prefer bug spray. So
I tell you another thing I've never done, but I've heard of guys who kill a lot of turkeys talk about is if there's a turkey hung up, especially if it's like a burn, like open, like maybe you can't see him, but he's just out of sight, just out of range, whatever. I've heard of people taking 2 wings and hitting them together and do fighting birds.
I've done that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stick them out to it real quick.
Yeah,
I've never actually caught turkey in with that, but I have pulled him closer with that.
Yep.
I've heard of. I've never done it. I've never done it, but I've heard of guys doing that.
But I know it will work.
Well,
yeah.
I watched my granddaddy do that one day. That does not work all the time. It does not work all the time. But when it does, it's like when you rattle in a buck.
Oh yeah.
They just
Boss gobbler knows
son, he is coming. Son, you can stand up next to him and he's just, where's them idiots?
Yeah.
Well, that's the way I am with that gobble and a mouth call. That's like my last resort. I've killed a bird doing that.
Was that you called that the one in that you found last year or the year before, whatever it was?
Basically, I didn't reap the turkey, but I held this in front of my face because we was sitting in the most wide open woods I've ever been in, and my dad was behind me, and I was holding this up, and when he peeked his head over that ridge, I mean, he was coming. But that gobble is what really made him come.
I'll tell you another thing that you can use that fan for is I'm not sure if this podcast is going to go on 25 high, or if it's just going to go on a different channel. But if it's on 25 high, or if not, you can look up 25 high. There's a video from Mississippi, and there's one clip where it was a morning Travis killed his bird. See you later. But it was the morning Travis killed his bird. They hadn't gobbled in an hour and a half, something like that, and we were creeping over this ridge, and I let Travis get out in front of me, held up that fan just so he could peek around the side and just over that fan, just so we wouldn't spook anything just busting over that ridge, you know.
And that's the main thing I use it for. If I'm trying to peek over something, I use it just as cover. I mean, that's basically, you can use this as a blind. If you're in a wide open woods, you can use this as a blind and a decoy at the same time. Even like
because
as long as your head's below it, they're not gonna pay no attention to it.
Or they're gonna run in. Back there. Or they're gonna run into you. They'll or sneaking into check a field or something even seems like a good idea. But one thing, man, you forgot to do is the introductions that like Brady did. So tell us.
That's true.
Tell us how long.
Anyway, well,
tell us how long you've been turkey hunting. A couple things.
We'll go back to the beginning. What was supposed
turkey
to be
blood. How long was 10?
I'm 20 now, about to be 21. I killed my first turkey when I was 9. Been in the woods turkey hunting with my dad since I was about 6. I'd say I've killed 15 to 20. Could have killed more.
Yeah.
As some of these boys here know. But but no, it's if it was in year round and they gobbled all year long,
I wouldn't do it.
I'd quit my job.
Deer hunt.
I'd
quit my job. I'd live in the woods.
Yep.
All year long.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's one thing I'm glad I've got friends who feel the same way as I do.
I mean, I'm just that eat up with it.
If they opened that season year round and they gobbled and acted right year round,
oh yeah,
you'd have to come here to find me. I'd have to have me a little treehouse built right there.
Yeah, that like Cade, I love him, but his brain's all messed up. He thinks deer hunting's better. he'll tell you. I think he's getting there because he just started a couple years ago with me. But he'll say, he's kind of leaning over the edge because sometimes he'll be like, man, I love deer hunting, but there's nothing like when that turkey gobbles at 50, 60 yards in a ratty chest. And I agree, but then he still goes off and says that deer hunting's better. Just kind of going off along the same thing. I've been turkey hunting since I was 8, carrying a gun since I think I was 9 or 10. I can remember following my dad around the woods and him getting mad at how much noise I made.
Oh, yeah.
But I've always been fascinated with the interaction of turkeys. You actually call to them, you hear response, you see what they do.
Yep.
Or the animal, yeah.
I think I killed my first one when I was 11 or 12. Killed 2 that year. And I've been hooked ever since. I've probably killed about the same as Travis, 15 or 20.
Good.
All right, guys. Well, sorry for that brief intermission. Didn't realize my camera had a 30-minute cutoff on the recording. And instead of just clicking record and keeping on with the flow of things, these boys said it's time to go bass fishing.
Yep.
So then we proceeded to barely catch anything.
True.
I think we ended up with, well, I mean, we did pretty good.
6 between us.
7, 8, 7.
For the whole day. You had a stick on your hat. Gotta look pretty for the camera. But anyways, we were pretty much done with the introductions when the camera cut off, so I guess we're just gonna talk turkey for a little bit.
So where were we at when the camera cut off?
It was like I looked at it. It was like right when it was right before you were talking about how many you had killed and private land and all that. It was like right before all that. So
Gotcha. So we had some topics in mind. Where y'all want to start this thing off at, since we kind of got thrown for a loop?
It's up to y'all. I'll talk whatever.
Let's start with how to approach a gobbler.
Well, give us this. How about this?
Depending on the situation.
Give us a scenario.
Alright.
And then
So
we'll kind of go from there.
Let's say it's a bird that you know is highly pressured. Maybe you fooled with him. Maybe, you know, multiple times. You know other people have. How are you going to go in there to attempt to coax that bird into thinking he should come in?
It personally, to start off with, it depends on how much experience I have with the bird.
Right.
So, if it's a bird like I know other people mess with and I haven't messed with, then and I don't really know anything about it, first thing I'm gonna do is look on the maps and figure out where is everybody coming from to get at this turkey. So if he's roosted 300 yards off a road and there's one main way to get into that creek bottom, and he's roosted in, everybody goes right uphill from him, then don't do that. You know, that would probably be my first step in that situation. Try to come around the backside or even come up the creek and set up on the creek on him instead of being up the hill from him. Maybe just try to figure out any way to get to him that other people haven't. And that's not something you can do in every situation. I mean, there's a lot of situations where there's roads on all sides, or like where you hunt a lot is, I mean, there's roads everywhere.
Yeah, every section.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it this way. How many times have you set up on a bird that's on a creek? Everything works out good. He's gobbling his head off on the limb. You yelp it one time at him, let him know where you're at, and he goes to the other side of the creek. That's not natural. That is, he's had somebody bugger with him before.
When you know he's by himself.
Yep.
Yeah, that happens more than when you yelp at one and he hammers back and comes in.
Yeah, way more.
Especially on public, where we hunt.
Yeah.
I've had been on turkeys. I've hunted, you know, the same one for a week or even longer. But one comes to mind. I was hunting in a burn and been fooling with this bird all week long. And I would call to him, just very minimal. Yet that bird never even thought about coming in.
Well,
but like, I mean, he didn't even have a pattern.
Well, that kind of was feeding into the point I was going to say.
Because I was like trying to figure out how I could reposition and just intercept him,
Just try to cut him off or
be,
something.
you know, be in his general direction of where he's going. But that bird, he never did the same thing twice.
Well, that's the thing is a lot of birds talk about pattern in birds. A lot of birds don't have a pattern.
They don't.
They hit a tree in the
Especially
evening.
down here.
If he's not have a bunch of hens that's going to dictate where he goes during the day, he may go 360 degrees every day.
Now, like when we was in Mississippi, them birds would fly down. You know, they'd roost on the edges of those ridges. They would fly down, and they may hit the side of a ridge or fly down on a ridge side, on the hillside. And them birds would go down into these bottoms and these ravines that run through there, and they would, I mean, like we would be on top, hear them gobble down the bottom, and the next time they gobble, they'd be on around the curve in that ravine. You know, it's like they just worked down through there. You know, and I felt like if we had another day, we could probably get down in there. You know, and be in the game.
Well, that's the point is, if you got a bird, you know, it's got a lot of pressure on him. But if you spend enough time with that bird, you'll figure something that he likes to do out, whether it be he does it at noon time frame or when he hits the ground. You'll figure something out. Then after that, it's just patience.
Right.
If you got a bird that, and how many times have we had a bird where you call at him, he done. He says nothing else, goes away, nothing.
The only way you're gonna kill that bird is if you listen to him 4 mornings in a row and don't say a word to him because you know he's gonna shut up. But see where he goes, what he does, the direction he goes.
Yeah, exactly my point.
You know what I'm saying?
So the birds I hunt, the birds we saw the strutting sign the other day. Obviously, I'm going to keep the location disclosed, but every day I know he roosts on that creek. He walks up that hill, walks that circle up there. If I go in there first couple mornings before season and I say something to him and he shuts up and I know he's already pressured from last year because it's the same bird from last year, or if I see a bunch of people in there on him, I'm liable to just get on that road he walks every single day and just sit down, and if I hear 6 birds other places, I know this bird's going to walk here at some point, before I have to leave the woods, I'll sit here if I have to. Obviously, I want to chase a bird who's going to gobble and react and does what we expect one to do. But if it gets down to it, well, I'm going to kill one. I'm going to have enough. I have the confidence to know I've spent enough time in the woods and learned these birds' pattern enough, and know how they behave in that chunk of public land. I'll kill him.
Right.
Yeah, that's like there's one area of my lease where it's a pipeline, and these birds always roost. Well, not always, but when they are roosted, they'll be on this like wet spot before you get to a creek. And every time they roost there, all my life, it's not the same bird because it's happened 6, 7, 8 years in a row. But they'll roost there, and every time I try to go uphill from them, because everything you hear is you got to call birds uphill. And I'd go uphill from them, and it didn't matter if I didn't say a word, if I called to them way too much, or called to them what I thought was just right. They could answer me, they do whatever. They're going to hit the ground, they're going to go down that hill, and they're going to come up on this big, pretty pine ridge, flat type thing. Every single time they do that. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together for the longest time. And then finally I had a bird in there gobbling, second guessed myself, and I said I need to get in front of them, get over there where I know they're going to go. Second guessed myself, went uphill from them. Sure enough, they did that. And you know, I haven't heard a bird gobble there in a couple years, but going forward, I know, like if a bird's roosted there, there's like a 90-something% chance he's going to walk this fire lane and then hop up on that big pretty oak or pine flat.
Yep. Well, that's where woodsmanship comes into play. So if you want to be up the hill of him, which we all know, you can call a bird uphill, you blow him, you probably ain't gonna call him to.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to call him from downhill.
But you know, you spend time in your woods, you know your woods. What was between you and him? Whether he just had somewhere in mind he wanted to be to go strut and deal with other turkeys, or was there something between you at the top of the hill and him at the bottom of the hill that he didn't want to cross?
There's nothing like bad to cross. It's just simply, I don't know if it's just from us hunting them from uphill for years, or if it's just because I know they like to go up that hill. There's a chiefy patch up there that's covered in turkey sign every year, and I always, you know, try to get on the fire lane that they're going to walk, or try to get on the pipeline, whatever. But for whatever reason, they just go the other way. And I know that one pine flat they go to, nobody ever goes in there.
Yeah.
There's never any pressure, like no deer hunting pressure, no turkey hunting pressure, no nothing. Nobody ever goes back there, unless you're chasing a bird that you set up on the wrong side of him and he walked off in there.
So if I was in that situation, I know the woods like you know those woods. I'm not going to park on top of the hill and listen to birds. I'm going to go in there before daylight and hear him come. Then work him when he gets closer, or just kill him if he's walking by.
Well, see, that kind of is similar to the situation last year. Me or my dad, one or the other, hunted this bird straight for 2.5 weeks. I ended up missing him the time he did come in, but the reason we hunted that bird so hard because we absolutely had him figured out. He would roost on public, and there's a fire break that goes right down to the creek, and he would fly down with his hens, and he would go straight to that private property. And by dark, I'd be back roosting him, and he'd roost back on near about the same area every time. And so after about 3 mornings, when we realized that's what he's doing every day, we go down in there and get in that fire break.
Yeah.
And wait on him. We had that bird in range, in sight 4 times. It just, you know how it is. You see him walk behind the bush, walk past the bush. You're waiting on him to come out the other side, whether he turns to go straight away from you or it's too thick to shoot, whatever. But that bird right there would be a prime example of knowing a bird has a pattern. Whether you won the game or not, you know, eventually you can figure that bird out enough if you don't miss.
Yeah.
You can eventually figure him out and win the game. But
that bird I killed last year on public, that's a spot just like that. There's just an area that there's a big creek bottom these birds love to roost in, and they roost in, you know, just about every evening. There'll be one roosted there morning, whatever. And you go in there to hunt him in the morning. You can come in from any direction, and that bird's gonna hit the ground right on the private property line and go off into private. And it took me a little while to figure it out, but I figured out, you know, most people leave that place they hunt from daylight till 9 or 10 o'clock, and then they leave. You go in there at 10 o'clock, that bird knows 99% of people ain't staying that late. He's gonna ease back into that big pretty oak flat on public out of those thick private woods, and he's gonna strut around. He's gonna gather up hens again. He's gonna be calm. You can strike him up and call him right up the hill from right out of that oak bottom.
Yep.
And that's what I did. It took a while to figure it out, and I figured I had to have some trial and error calling him from the wrong place. I called that bird across a creek one day, and he never came in sight. I think I overcalled him, and because he was gobbling the whole way in, and I just kept letting him hear a yelp every now and then, a couple cuts, a couple clucks, whatever, and he gets to 50, 60 yards just over the crest, and I'm just waiting on him. I'm like, he gobbled right there. You know, he gobbled right there, and went silent for about 5 minutes. Next time he gobbled, he was 150 yards away.
Yep.
He knew that hen was supposed to come to him as much as I was calling. But going back to the main point is figuring out that area that they like to be and when they like to be there.
So how do you know when it's too much calling?
Check the temperature.
It's hard to know
He ain't wanting
sometimes.
to gobble back at you. Heck off.
Well, I have a philosophy too. I mean, it doesn't matter how hot he is. If he's cutting me off every first yelp I make, when he hits that 100-yard mark.
See, a lot of people, when the bird, a lot of people say, you know, you hear on TV, YouTube, whatever, if a bird's cutting you off, whatever, gobbling at you every time, have fun with it. I'm a big naysayer against that. Just because, I mean, because in my mind, all you're doing is letting him know you're still there.
Yeah.
And
But if you go quiet and he wants you bad, wants to find you bad enough, he'll come.
yeah, I certainly.
I mean, if it may be 2 hours, but he'll
be
easily come.
I was just like that bird that you and me killed last year in that clear cut.
Yeah, I certainly feel like, you know, when one's hammering back at you and you want to sit there and have fun with him, and you know, everybody hunts turkeys to hear the gobble. I mean, that's one of the best parts about it. And you want to hear it bad, but at the same time, it's like you sit there and hammer back at him, all he's gonna think is that hen's coming here.
Exactly.
He may cut the distance quite a bit. He may be just out of shotgun range.
I'll
but
say
that hen
this:
will.
if there's a turkey gobbling, I don't care how much he's gobbling or how little he's gobbling. If the hens, I'll match the temperature of the hens.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I'll call just like them hens are calling.
That's what killed my bird in Mississippi.
Well,
That's what killed my one line.
Yeah.
You know, that some gun went, I heard that thing go to cutting and yelping, and I went right back at her. And before she finished her next sequence answering us, she was coming. And she brought the rest of them jakes in there and eventually brought them gobblers in there.
well,
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm a full believer in call the way the hens are calling.
so that's the thing is, if you got a gobbler who's got a bunch of hens with him, disregard the gobbler,
Yeah, call them.
because he ain't leaving them hens. He's already got them. Why is he going to break from them to go find this pretty sounding little young lady up the hill? He's already got 3 or 4 of them with him. If you can get them hens to answer you, don't worry about the gobbler. Call them in, because he'll be right behind. So, but you got to think turkey hunting. What makes turkey hunting the opposite of every other hunting we do is we are flipping the script of nature. It is the total opposite of what's supposed to happen.
You have to make him think the way he's not supposed to.
A gobbler goes somewhere, if he's by himself, he goes somewhere where he can see for a while, he blows up and struts and gobbles. A hen, when she's ready to breed, goes to him. So now we're in the woods, we're 5.5 foot, 6 foot tall, 200-pound animals walking around sounding like an elephant through the woods, trying to call a 20-pound animal who is probably one of the hardest animals to kill in the woods because they're so sly. And we're gonna get 300 yards from him and start calling to him and expect him to do completely opposite of what is in his brain, what's inscribed in his DNA to do.
Yeah.
So it's odds are stacked in their favor every time. So that's one of the reasons turkey hunting is so rewarding, because you played the game, you played the chess game with him, and you made him do something so stupid it got him killed.
That's the thing. If you win the game, you kill that bird, you get something to be proud of. Because
Amen.
one, you just reversed nature and won.
Yep.
You overpowered nature, and two, his number one sense of survival is eyesight, and you just beat that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
So
Because when he comes in there, he's expecting to see a hen, and if you can bring him in shotgun range, and him knowing that he should be seeing a hen the entire time.
That's why I always preach, which I've done it kind of sort of all my life, but never really thought about it till the last couple of years, hearing other people talk about it on other podcasts and stuff, is that hide the hen. You know, if you got one coming in, and if you're in a situation, a lot of times in our burns you don't have that, but there's also a lot of times where you can, instead of setting up on top of this little ridge where you can see 150 yards through there and see him coming, well, he's exposed to that hen. He may come in a good ways, but he'll stop out there at 120 yards and gobble at you, and just, where's she at?
That's
Where's
the
she
one
at?
situation that I would rather have a decoy than not have one.
Yeah.
Well,
Just because, I mean, it gives him some kind of a visual. Even if he hangs up at yonder and gives up on her coming to him, even though he can see her, but still.
that's a situation. One, a decoy is nice, but two, I'd rather not be by myself. If I got a buddy with me, if I got you with me who can call,
Get back there.
Travis, go back there 150 yards. Keep him on a string. If he's coming to us, if he's here and he starts coming this way, Travis, you just match his speed going dead away from you. I'm going to stay right here. Because that way when he gets 100 yards from you, he's hung up. He's 40 yards from me.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is, I mean, everybody who's turkey hunted, man, he gobbled every time. He got out there and he got out there 80 yards and didn't move. He sat there and gobbled and gobbled and gobbled. And finally, he just went away.
If you can't see him and you know he can't see you, if you got the chance to get somebody to start walking that way and just calling softly or just simply clucking as they walking back,
And another thing, like, if you are
make
alone,
him think.
what you can do to kind of sort of, it's worked for me in some situations and it hasn't worked in others, but one either hung up or not real fired up about coming in, you're calling at him at your normal volume, you just get real quiet and do that right there. Just get real quiet with that mouth call and throw that sound behind you as far as you can. Cup your hand, turn around, get around behind the tree, and he's gonna think that hen's going away, and that's one. And then you can just shut up most of the time, and he's gonna come check her out, thinking she's going another way.
Bubba. Bubba.
We got a pack of dogs over there.
Yeah, sorry, my hound dog's over there. But no, we talk about what calls we like to use and what calling sequences we like to do. Silence has killed more turkeys than the other.
That's fine.
Oh yeah.
If he answers you one time, take that mouth call out, throw it out, and if you sit there till 11 o'clock, he's gonna come through there.
At some point.
Yeah,
Patience.
somebody did a GPS study on birds, and the study was based on like what do these pressure turkeys do when
like
hunters
80% of the time they come in there and check it out.
So they
3
they
hours
put
later.
GPS on hunters. They give them a GPS tracker when they had GPS tracked birds, and they would be sitting there at the check station looking at their GPS and tell hunters, be like, here, carry this GPS, there's a bird roosted right here, go ahead and get in there, get in 80 yards from him an hour and a half before daylight, you know. And they do it. They get in there, they'd hunt him, he'd answer, they'd leave at 9 o'clock, talk to the biologist and say, man, he gobbled at me good, but never did come in. And then about the time they got done with that conversation and they got out of there, you look at his GPS and those GPS points lined up almost exactly.
So, and people underestimate extremely the turkey's ability to pinpoint from distance.
Oh yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, think about it like this. Just even think of an owl. Me and you call it owls all the time. How many times have you heard an owl just barely in hearing distance? You owl hoot at him, and in 3 minutes, he's on top of you.
Yeah.
He hasn't said a word. You haven't said a word. Next thing you know, he's sitting there on top of you, hooting back at you.
I remember
Them things can pinpoint unbelievable.
I remember what really
He knows
like
what tree you're sitting on.
proved that to me was me and my dad were hunting one morning, and the first thing was I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. I should have listened to my dad, but I said, last time I heard him, he was down there. We need to go down the hill from here and set up on this pipeline. We were set up on a pipeline up the hill from him. And I said, we need to go down there. He was gobbling down there. So we snuck down the pipeline, sat there for an hour, and we made a couple real soft calls, nothing crazy. And my dad said, I'm just gonna sneak out here and just see what's going on. He crawled to the edge of the pipeline, looked up the hill, and 20 yards from where we were sitting, there was 2 longbeards. And then my dad told me to come out there. I crawled out there, got looking at him. We got looking through the binoculars, and he went, that mouth call, just real soft yelp, you know, yelp, yelp, yelp. And they just perked up, looked down, and just started feeding down the hill. We backed up, gave it 5-10 minutes or so, and he did one more real soft calling sequence. Well, it wasn't 5 minutes. I see 2 white heads sitting there, and they come up and they were staring directly at him. He was 2 trees over, you know, 10 feet away from me, and they were staring directly at him. And he hadn't called in 5-10 minutes, and it was real soft.
Yep.
They were staring directly at him. I did kill that bird. It was pretty awesome.
Right on, man. But yeah, so I mean, we can talk about this all day. I mean, the animal's the animal. They're one of the most brilliant animals in the woods, and they have the brain the size of a single peanut.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Would you rather hunt one at daylight and gobbling his brains out? Or would you rather
Middle of the day. You'll kill him every time.
10, 11 o'clock and he's gobbling?
If you get one by himself gobbling at 10 o'clock, you'll kill him.
Doggone right.
Yeah.
I mean, with like not even exaggerating.
If he's
with
gobbling at that time, he ain't got no hens with him. If he's gobbling good at that time.
like it probably was like a 60% success rate. If you got him in there and you don't bump him out of there and you're quiet and you get into place, all you've got to do is yelp one time. If he answers you at 10:30 or above, he's dead.
Yeah, for me personally, like killing one right off the roost, it's awesome. It's a great feeling. You did your job. You did it. That's like quote unquote the perfect turkey hunt.
Yes.
But it is more rewarding the few times that I've been able to stick with one till 9:30, 10 o'clock, and like you finally, have been working on this bird all morning, and then maybe he leaves his hens, or maybe you just end up in the right spot. If he's like cruising, you just end up in the right spot that he's gonna come into, and he does. That is a whole nother level, in my opinion.
It makes me think of that bird last year. When we was on that piece of public land, we heard him gobbling away off. I don't know what I mean. Think of this. Moving to the subject. He gobbled at the head of that pond. He hit the ground, and he had to have been sprinting.
Every time he gobbled, he was further. Old satellite turkey.
Son, I have never in my life. I've seen him strike out and just get to marching. That dude right there, but what got me is he was walking at such a pace you'd think he spooked him, but he was gobbling every 10 steps.
He crossed the main highway. It wasn't a highway, but it was the main one.
This thing walked 1,000 yards in a matter of 15 minutes. Gobbling every step.
I don't know.
So we went around there and got straight across from where he crossed the road at. Oh, he ain't seen or heard from him since.
No, remember when we got, so the road we was on, the pond's here, the road we was on, he crossed the main road. It was 750 yards to the next road. By the time we had finally got away around there, because them gates was shut, by the time we all the way got around there, we said, we're about to kill this bird. We got in front of him. We tracked the roads. He's done crossed.
That's right.
And you couldn't get in there.
About that.
Yeah, you couldn't get in there.
I forgot he done crossed, yeah.
This thing walked 1,000 yards in 15 minutes gobbling his
He
head
had his
off.
mind going somewhere.
He was getting on somewhere.
We had one similar to that. The first bird I ever heard gobbling in the evening. I thought he was still on the ground because he flew up real early. And I called back to him. He would cut me off. And then I heard a hen there roosted with him. And she was cutting like crazy and just going bananas, And I told Daddy about it. He didn't hear it somehow. And his truck was parked just out of sight of that bird. So he walked 150 yards from him. And then I heard him slam his door, thinking, he didn't think anything of it. He didn't hear the turkey gobble. I heard him slam his door, and I was like, dang. He comes up there, and he said, how'd you do? And I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Shh, there's a turkey that was gobbling in there. And he's like, well, we'll go kill him in the morning if he's gobbling in there. Well, we went in there next morning, made this big loop to get around on the other side of him. Never gobbled on the limb. And then we're heading out. It was rocked on about 8 o'clock. We had heard a bird way off, and we figured out that based off of where we heard, that bird hit the ground, walked a good ways, and then started gobbling once he got on the ground away from that truck he heard, you know, the night before. And he starts gobbling, steady going away. And we, instead of trying to get in front of him, because we really couldn't, we'd have to drive way on around and come in from public. We just went behind him. And we'd call to him and he'd be 300 yards away. We'd walk 100 yards, call to him, he'd be 300 yards away. And we eventually somehow caught up to him where we was 100 yards behind him. And Daddy cut at him, he hammered right, cut us off. Cut at him again, cut us off. And then we waited a little bit and he gobbled in the same spot. And that was the first time he had stopped. So then we did that trick, you know, turn around, he called real soft behind him, he gobbled at it. Next thing you know, he pops up at 30 yards and Daddy killed him.
Things drive you crazy. But no, I said this a minute ago. Silence has killed more turkeys than anything. Silence, patience, and woodsmanship. Knowing the woods you hunt will
Position
put
is
you
much more
and
important
put you in a
probably.
position to kill more birds than your ability to call will every single time.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
So around here it's flat as a pancake around here, but knowing what turkeys want to walk through, what do turkeys not want to walk through, where are they going to be feeding, what's drawing them to this area. Do some areas have, you know, in your place, choofers, has the state planted patches? Is there acorns? Is there a bunch of insects that they're eating? Is it a strutting area? They're roosting here. Obviously they want to roost near creeks when they can, from what we can tell. You never know what a turkey's going to do. You know, what's his path? And knowing, putting yourself in a turkey's position and walking and spending all your time in the woods scouting and knowing the woods, knowing the lay of the land, knowing what a turkey wants to do. You can learn a turkey's motives by tracking it. And inevitably learning the woods. So turkeys roost down on the creek. I mean, are they gonna fly down in the swamp where it's a 6 foot tall gallberry patch before they hit the oak thicket they want to feed in? No, they're gonna fly over that, obviously. If a turkey's got a trail he walks, is he gonna walk up the side of a road that is thick briars and thick oaks, or is he gonna walk up that road? Turkeys are a lot like humans. And deer. They're going to take the path of least resistance. But they want to have somewhere they are concealed, feel safe, have what they need, and can communicate. But essentially what I'm getting at, because I was rambling anyway, essentially what I'm getting at is know the woods you hunt, know what a turkey wants to and doesn't want to walk through, know where he wants to be, what he wants to do, his motives behind it. Spend time in the woods. You'll kill more birds. That's as easy as that. Yet again, it's one of the hardest things we can do.
I feel like that's a pretty good place to wrap up for tonight. I mean, woodsmanship. I mean, we kind of hit the nail on the head right there. You know, summed it all up right there. So
scout. Know the woods. Know the habits of your bird. Know what he's looking for. Take his temperature. And I guess next time we can hit on calling, taking the temperature more in depth.
Yeah.
What to call, when to call, how to call.
We'll figure out something to talk about next time.
I don't know, we could go on for hours right now.
We could, for real. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Anyway, I've enjoyed it. This is the first of many, hopefully. We'll try to do it once every week or two.
Yep. Bubba!
And we're gonna have some of these on location. I know in shoot, it's only like 2 weeks, week and a half before I leave. Just about. We're going to South Florida, me and Travis. Brady.
Maybe.
It's
depends on workload.
Yeah. I don't know if Brady's gonna make it, but me and Travis going to South Florida and try to get our Osceola.
That's right. We'll have one tied to a tree for him.
Yeah. We're gonna try to get us our first Osceola, and then we got a few more trips planned. Hopefully try to knock off a couple more states. Me and Travis are chasing that 49. We've only got, what, 46 to go each?
That's right, only 46.
So we'll get there one day, but anyway.
And here's the deal, we got Florida knocked off. We just ain't killed an Osceola.
We could, at this point, we could get our U.S. Super Slam without
Never
getting a
even
Grand
killed
Slam.
it. Yeah.
Because we both killed Florida birds.
Who wants to do that though?
Yeah.
Well, hey, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yep.
That's right.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys watching. This has been Short Waddles.
Thanks for hanging.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging with the guys with the shortest waddles in the woods.
That's right.
We'll see you next time.
That's right.